Welcome to my first ever video and 2024 prediction. To start it off, I have marked all of the safe red and blue states to give an idea of the more competitive states. A few states on here could fall into being likely, such as Missouri and Indiana, but in the end, those few points are not worth talking about in this video. Started off, I would like to mark all the likely Democratic states. These states, I predict, will go in between 5 to 15 points. To start it off, I will start with Minnesota, Colorado, and New Mexico. These states are really solidly Democratic. However, these states are not safe. They don't have quite the support needed to be marked as safe. The next states I would like to mark will be New Hampshire and Virginia. These are states with Republican governors. However, the Democratic bias of these states still mean that chances are it will be a likely margin. The next two are Maine, the whole state, and Nebraska's 2nd district. Maine is a very solidly Democratic state despite having a Republican senator. However, in the presidential election, I have no doubt that Maine will be a likely state. As for Nebraska's 2nd district, it is pretty solidly Democratic, and even with a Republican House member in that seat, I still think that it will be very likely. Next, for the Republican likely seats, I think Montana, South Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, and Nebraska's 1st congressional district will be likely. This is because they are pretty strong Republican parties in these states. Iowa and Ohio did not change at all from 2016 to 2020, and I think they'll be solidly around 8 points. Montana has an incumbent Democrat running for re-election in the Senate, and I think that will cause some support for the presidential election towards President Biden. I don't think he'll win the state, but I think it will go likely. The next two states that I think will go likely is Kansas and Alaska. Alaska has been trending blue, as well as Kansas. However, I do not think that the trend will be enough to rank them anything other than likely. The final state I will be ranking as likely is Florida. Florida had a very bad year for the Democrats in 2022. The state went solidly red for both the governor and the Senate. I do believe that while that trend will stay in place, I do not think it will be solidly Republican for the presidential election, simply because of more voter turnout. However, you cannot deny that this state is getting much redder, so I think it will be likely. Next up for the lean Democratic seats, Minnesota, Pennsylvania are my picks for lean Democratic states. Michigan and PA are very big states in the Rust Belt that are very important for Democrats. Michigan went by 3 points and PA by 1 point. However, due to Senate and governor performances in 2022, I do believe that these states will be lean unless a big red wave happens. Next up for the lean Republican states. First off, Maine's 2nd congressional district. I believe that Maine's 2nd congressional district, although held by a Democrat, has trended very well for Republicans over the last few elections, and although I think it will get more Democratic, I do think that Republicans will end up winning it. The biggest Republican-leaning state would be Texas. Texas is a juggernaut of a state with 40 electoral votes. However, it has been trending Democrat as of late. However, luckily for Republicans, the state is very huge and there is many Republicans still in the state. However, I do think compared to last election where it went by 5.6 percentage points, I think it will go to a much closer 3.6. Next up for the tilt states, which I think will decide the election. To start, I will give the Republicans North Carolina. North Carolina was between 1.5 points in the last election, and I think it will narrow down even further. However, I do not think there's enough support for President Biden as of now to rank it as tilt Democratic. Now, finally, to decide the election, Nevada, which has been trending Republican but has not gone for them. I think it will stick with this trend and go down to a tilt margin. This is due to Clark County becoming redder, while Washoe becomes bluer. The next state I would like to characterize as tilt would be Arizona and Wisconsin. I think these states could easily go to a lean margin. However, due to current trends and the strength of the Democratic Party in recent elections in these states, I think it will be a tilt margin. On to Georgia. Democrats have at this point have already won the election. However, I believe that they will also win Georgia, although by a slimmer margin than Arizona and Wisconsin. This is due to the suburbs and major cities in Georgia going and trending bluer, while the rurals trend red. The cities make up a giant portion of the electorate in Georgia, and I think that they will continue to push the state bluer. However, I do think it will be much slower than Arizona. And this is my presidential election. In the end, I think Joe Biden will win with 303 electoral votes versus Trump's 235. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing. I'm new to this whole thing. I'm trying to figure it out. It would really help and improve my confidence and willingness to keep going. See you later.